Thank you for joining. This is part of a series of webinars we're running for academic mentors. And today we have Maria and Lewis presenting from LSE Careers. And the session would be a 15-minute presentation followed by a 15-minute Q&A. It would be recorded so people can access to the materials later on. And I wanted to thank you to those who joined, because then we'll have more time to ask specific questions to the presenters and ideally contribute to the practice of academic mentoring at LSE. And now I would like to hand it over to Maria and Lewis.
Thank you very much, Daniela. Hello and good morning, everyone. And thank you very much for the invitation and for really giving us the opportunity to tell you more about how we at LSE Careers support current students at LSE. So as Daniela has already mentioned, my name is Maria Kramer. I'm one of the careers consultants at LSE Careers, but I'm also a former PhD candidate at LSE in the Department of Sociology, so very much remembering my time as a student in this institution. And I'm being joined today by Lewis Humphreys, who is our Careers Education Manager and co-leads the Careers Consultant team at LSE Careers, and also happens to be a former student at LSE. And I believe it's got a long name, philosophy, scientific...
Let me help you out, Maria. It's
scientific
the Department
method.
of Philosophy, Logic and Scientific Method. A bit of a mouthful, but a great department.
Perfect.
Yeah. And thank you for the invitation too. I've been at LSE Careers for the last 5.5 years. I've worked with many different academic departments whilst I've been here. And yeah, we'll run through a presentation of 15 minutes. I'm very happy to take any questions at the end.
Perfect, thank you, Liz, and thank you for coming to my rescue here with remembering that very long title. So let me tell you a bit more about what we're going to cover today. So we're going to share with you an overview of what we do at LSE Careers, how we support students, and very crucially, how students can actually access our services to hopefully make you feel more confident about signposting students to what we have to offer. We're also going to share with you a couple of key resources and tools that students find very, very useful and that are very popular with our students, and that can also be quite a quick win to share and signpost to. And we're also going to share with you the key contacts in our team that are responsible for the various departments at LSE, so that you also know who in our team would be a really good first point of contact. And as Daniela has already mentioned, there will also be time for Q&A towards the end. Before I actually delve a little bit deeper into how we support students, I thought it might be quite useful to just quickly take a moment and reflect on what makes careers maybe a particular topic at an institution like LSE. So depending on whether you've worked for quite a long time at LSE or whether you've just joined the institution, it is quite likely that sooner or later you will come across the big importance that a lot of students do place on their career development at LSE. It's historically been a topic that has attracted a lot of mental energy, a lot of time and effort. And while that on the one hand can be very rewarding for the students, and it can definitely be very rewarding to support students in their career development, careers can also be a topic that can be a source of anxiety, concern, overwhelm, and peer pressure at LSE. So it is quite likely that maybe at one point you will encounter students in your office hours coming to you feeling quite stressed and concerned about their career development. This might already have happened or is something that might happen at one point. And the good news is really that we're here to support students who are experiencing exactly these kind of feelings, as well as students who are very happy and confident about shaping their career and taking it to the next stage. So we really work with students at every single stage of their career development. And I always say we're also a very friendly team. So whenever you see a student coming to you feeling quite nervous and maybe not feeling confident enough to come to LSE Careers, that's exactly the kind of moment when we can offer them a lot of support. And what that looks like, I'm going to share with you in a second. So an overview of how we work with students can happen in different ways. And one way to think about it, I might have to just move this a bit about, is to think about the 5 key pillars of support that we offer to students, also to graduates. But at this point, I think it's more important to focus on the students. So really the bread and butter of what we do and the big chunk of the services that we offer consists both in one-to-one careers appointments that are being done by our careers consultants team and in the form of careers events that we're running kind of as a whole team at LSE Careers. And just to give you a couple of numbers here, so last academic year, we ran about 14,000 careers appointments with the students, and we were running 500 events, which were attended by, I'm trying to remember now, I think about 15,000 unique students, 15,000 students. And for this academic year that has started in September, October, we've been running about 7,000 careers appointments already. So they're very busy. They're very often fully booked. Students can book them a week in advance, so they don't need to plan a long time in advance. We've already run 200 events. They're going to go up to 300 events by the end of March, and they've been attended by 12,000 students, 4,000 of which have been unique students. So sometimes students book multiple events, which is why the attendance number doesn't always reflect the amount of unique students. So that's just to give you a little bit a sense of the volume of work that we're doing at LSE. It also gives you a sense of the appetite for careers among students. And what's quite important to remember is that in our careers appointments, we really have the chance to give students very tailored one-to-one advice. So it's really the kind of space where they can get that very personalized advice that they need at the stage they're at. The careers events are a little bit different. They're much more a space for them to really practically explore different career pathways by either coming for skill sessions that are run by our careers consultants, or by meeting employer representatives on campus to hear more about vacancies, opportunities, or to also get skills training that is relevant for the kind of careers they're interested in. And our careers events are also very much a social space. It's also a space for them to forge relationships, to learn from their peers, and to really start working towards building a network, both among their current peers, among employers, and also among alumni. So that's a really big chunk of what we do. But on top of that, we also give students the opportunity to gain work experience through our program of work-based learning opportunities and our job boards that students can access. And we also have a whole range of online resources that Lewis is going to say a bit more about in a second that can help students really drive their own career development in their own time whenever it fits really around their schedule and their studies. All of these pillars of support I've just outlined, they're accessible to students no matter what they're studying. So it really cuts across our departments, but we're also aware that there are a lot of nuances between departments and within departments. So on top of that centralized offer, students also have the chance to delve into what we call a departmental careers program. So each of us in the careers consultant team has a couple of departments that they're responsible for. So Lewis has already mentioned that he worked with a range of different departments. So we all have different, more in-depth knowledge, I would say, about what the career needs in these different departments are for students. And the program we put together is really developed in liaison with stakeholders from that department, both academic and personal professional services staff. So that's just to tell you a bit more about how we kind of split the work that we do, both centrally and in terms of departmental support. I'll leave it here with this slide, and I'm not going to go more into kind of the fine-grained detail here, but you're very welcome to ask questions, of course. Let me just again change the slide. Now, this looks very busy. I'm very conscious of that. It's just a different way of really visualizing the support we're offering. This is a timeline visualization. And I'm not going to go into all the detail here, but there's really two key things I would love you to take away, which hopefully you will find helpful when speaking to students who come with careers queries to you. And one is that we actually operate the whole year around. So whereas academic cycles might get a bit more quiet in the summer, LSE Careers is open for students to get appointments. And we also run a short program of events in the spring term. So all year round, students have access to us, apart from obviously the school closure dates. And the other thing I'd really like to draw your attention to is that we work with students across a very broad range of sectors. So students often come when they come to LSE, they often have this impression that we mostly work on the big, attractive sectors that a lot of LSE students feel drawn to, which is the finance sector and consulting. That's partially dictated by the recruitment cycles, so they happen, excuse me, very early on in the year. So this is why some of our big flagship events early on in the year, yes, they are on consulting, yes, they are on the financial services, but it's only a tiny chunk of what we do. So students who are interested in discovering international organizations, the creative industries, the public sector, sustainability, social impact, they will have their opportunities to delve deeper into the sectors through our program as well. So that's just a little bit of myth busting that I think is always quite helpful to do, so that students feel like there is support across a range of sectors available to them. And then I'll change again. And then finally, before I hand over to Lewis, I just also wanted to share with you that students can access our services through 2 different web presences, which sounds a bit confusing, but actually at second glance, it does make sense. So on the one hand, we have Career Hub, LSE Career Hub, which is our platform where students can access our services directly. So this is the platform where they log in with their LSE credentials in order to book appointments, to really browse our events, to book their places at events, and also to access our job board. This is only accessible to students with their LSE credentials and LSE career staff. So anybody who isn't a student and doesn't work for us can't really see what's happening on the platform, but we always share with our departments the relevant event info so that the departments can pass it on to the students. And then we also have for students to access, and what Lewis is going to say more about is also sitting mostly on this website. We have our public facing website. So that's open access. Anybody can really access it. You don't even have to be LSE, to be honest. It's all available through Google. And this has a lot of careers advice. It has a lot of tools and resources that students can access in order to, I would say, research more about careers. So it has information on how to navigate their career journey and where they can actually start with career planning. It also has a lot of direct information on application processes, tips and advice if that's urgently needed outside of our appointment times. And it also has a lot of packed information on employment sectors, telling students kind of what's happening in those sectors, what are the relevant job boards, how do you get in. So that's it really from my end, and I'll hand over to you, Lewis.
Thank you, Maria. Just to pick up on one thing you mentioned about Career Hub. So the default is that only students and career staff can view the events, but if you would find it useful, you can request viewing only access on Career Hub 2 if you want to just be able to see what's on. But typically, careers consultants share upcoming relevant events with academic departments pretty regularly in any case. So, and students get these through newsletters from PSS colleagues. Maria, could you go to the sort of, oh no, we've gone to the next slide, beg your pardon. So Maria mentioned a few of the numbers. So we do loads of appointments, loads of events, but there is a limit to the sort of number of in-person and online appointments that we sort of can offer in a given week. So, and we also recognize that for students, sometimes they want to access career support at 11 p.m. or 3 in the morning. So there's a lot of resources online which are really in-depth, and there are lots of tools which students can use for specific queries. So here is a selection of them here, which I think hopefully illustrate a bit of the range of what students can access. So CareerSet is a tool where students can get their CVs reviewed instantaneously by AI. I've got some stats on the next slide about just how much they use it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's our most popular tool. Each year, it's used by roughly half of the student population. So undergrads, postgrads, really popular. Case Coach is it's a best preparatory course for case interviews. So 10% of our graduates will go into consulting after LSE. And so this is an in-depth way for them to prepare for case interviews. There's video course, there's a case library. It's absolutely fantastic resource. There's support for international students. So Student Circus here. It has 3 purposes. One, it's a jobs board for roles in the UK from organizations that provide visa sponsorship. So really of interest to a lot of our international students. It also has an international jobs board. So if students want to return home, It's got jobs for India, China, the US, Germany, France, many, many more. It also has really useful country guides. So particularly for students who have maybe spent 3 years doing their undergraduate here and don't know the sort of recruitment norms in their home countries, there's in-depth country guides there as well. Shortlist Me, that is again AI driven. It's where students can practice doing pre-recorded video interviews and get feedback straight away. So pre-recorded video interviews are increasingly common aspect of a recruitment process, so they can practice there, which is really useful, particularly if they get quite tight turnaround times to practice these things. Graduates First is where students can practice their psychometric tests. So I think there's about 400 different psychometric tests they can practice. I logged on there the other day to play around, and I was very depressed to see how far my cognitive abilities had declined. But anyway, these are things where students can practice, and it's really, really handy where students have these coming up. Then with our colleagues in Page, there's tools like Ask an Alum, where students can put out a question into the ether, and AI will send that question to the alumni it thinks are best placed to answer that question. It's a fantastic tool to get students to connect with alumni. These are just 6 on one slide. There are many, many more. Next slide, please, Maria. So just to give you an idea of career set. So this is slightly outdated. This is from February 2021 to October 2024. We don't have the most up-to-date information yet. But essentially, what this shows is that around 14,500 students and a sort of 3.5-year period registered and uploaded their CV 135,000 times. And what the AI does is it scores it, and it will pick out specific things: length of bullet points, use of your verbs. Are you quantifying enough? Is it a good CV for the particular role you're applying for? On many different criteria, it will give suggestions for improvement. And there's a bit of GPT functionality in there now where I'll actually generate some suggestions too, but it limits it so they can't just cheat and write the whole thing with AI. But this just gives you an idea of just how much students use one of our tools, and links to what Maria said, just about how engaged a lot of students are with careers and how, I guess, anxious they are to make sure that things like their CVs, things like their interviewing are as good as they can be. So yeah, scary stuff. But as you'll see in the bottom right there, saves us a lot of time in terms of just the amount of days worth of appointments it would have been just to come in and check CVs. Although, of course, we still do lots of CV checks in appointments. Next slide, please, Maria. Another sort of newish resource that we have too are 2 sort of short Moodle courses, particularly for students who are new to LSE. We set up a course for undergraduates this year, which is bite-sized. There are sort of 4 mini modules. It takes an hour to complete. But for students who are really feeling like they don't want to use us or feel like careers isn't for them, we've sort of made a little course for them to get started with thinking about their careers. STEP has been running for maybe it's in its 3rd year now, and this is a course for incoming master's students. This is really, really popular, and it's particularly useful for international master's students who don't have any familiarity with the UK labour market. So there's lots of good things on there about some of the labour market information, some of the recruitment timelines, some of the things that they need to know. One of the big problems incoming master's students have, excuse me, is that they're just unfamiliar with the timelines, and some of the recruiting for certain sectors starts essentially early September, so they sort of need to know this stuff. Okay, we're almost at the end, so the next few slides is just which you can read in your own time. Just reiterates what Maria said, is that in the slides we've included all of the contact information for the careers consultants who look after the academic departments at LSE. If you lose these slides, it's really easy to find this information online as well. Just Google LSE Careers team and you can find the list of all the careers consultants there. If you've got any questions, my suggestion is to go to the careers consultant who is attached to your academic department. All of our careers consultants, part of their remit is to get to know the students in the department, get to know the particular programs, the careers interest of students there, and they'll also be running throughout the academic year a program for students in your department already. But if you've got any questions or you'd like to get some information from them or some advice, then they are really very happy to have a chat with you. And then finally, on the next slide, this is a cheat sheet. So if you scan this QR code, it will be a 2-page PDF, which Maria and I thought was, what's the sort of most, if we had to condense this presentation down into sort of 2 pages, what do you need to know about LSE Careers at a glance? So if you're signposting students to careers, this might be something to print out and put up in your office, or just have a read through. It has information on the sort of numbers of appointments students can book, and lots of other links and just useful resources there too. Maybe we'll send it around separately as a PDF as well, Maria, as well too. We did send this around with academic mentors. We sent it around a few times, but for new mentors, we think this would be handy. So perhaps we'll stop sharing the screen now, Maria, and then take any questions.
Thank you, Lewis and Maria, for the presentation. We have 8 minutes left, roughly, for questions. And we have one in the chat by Mega, and then we can, Paulette can ask her question. So do you have any specific programs and or support for care experience students wanting to explore their career options?
Yeah, this is a great question. So what we have is so part of our careers programs are related to diversity threads, and one of those is social mobility, and that's a hugely important part of our work. And actually Maria knows more about this than I do. It's work that she's been doing with other colleagues this last year. As of November 2024, we recruited a new careers consultant to our team who is doing work, coordinate the work on our EDI threads, but also on the school's APP work, so the Access and Participation Plan. That work focuses a lot on students who have come from backgrounds where they've been eligible for free school meals, but care experience students are also part of this group too. So there's nothing specific for those groups from LSE Careers, but from the widening participation team, they do have a program support, as I understand it. Maria, correct me if I'm wrong, for that particular group. But just to say, that social mobility program runs all year round. It has things like a mentoring program, exclusive visits, opportunities that are ring-fenced for particular groups of students. And as I say, we've got a new careers consultant who's come from the Social Mobility Foundation, who is leading our work in this area to make sure that we're doing the best we can. Maria, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, maybe just to add to that, if students are interested in accessing the support through the social mobility program, the easiest way to signpost them is to just Google LSE Careers Social Mobility, and on there they see the link that they can just sign up to the program. So that's their way in order to access what we do, and then they get a regular newsletter with the events and the extra support and program that's out there. It's a great question.
Thank you. Yeah, that's super useful to know. Thanks both.
Paulette?
Yeah, thank you, Lewis and Maria, and thanks for that question, Mega, because that was something I didn't know. So thank you very much for raising that. I'm the mentor for first-year students in the undergraduate program in the Department of Management. And one of the things that I am faced with every new cohort of students is there are a group of students that arrive at LSE completely focused on spring week internships, and they feel as though their life will end literally if they're not able to secure an internship. And you know, I run workshops with them at the start of the term about setting expectations, and I stress the importance of attendance, because in the past some students have not gone to classes because they've focused on doing these spring week applications. Do you have any suggestions on how I can mentor students in believing that you know, that week, and sometimes it's not even a complete week in spring, does not define their entire degree or their future career aspirations, because they arrive as I said, so focused. And what I've actually said to them, and I hope that I'm not wrong in saying this, but I do say that, employers, they're not really concerned with when you develop the work experience. They're more interested in the quality of the work experience that you've had, because there have been numbers of students who deliberately don't do anything in that first year because they want to concentrate on embedding themselves into the program. Is there anything else that you can add?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So my academic department I look after is finance, so I feel your pain. So yeah, no, essentially the reality is there are actually a very small number of Spring Week opportunities out there. There are far more summer internship opportunities than there are Spring Weeks. So it is not the end of the world if you don't get a Spring Week. Moreover, banks in particular ring fence most of Spring Week opportunities for particular groups these days, because they're doing it as part of their EDI targets. And so it's not the case that it's the only entry point in for a lot of students. So the way I sort of approach it with finance students is that definitely apply to, if that's what you're interested in, go for it. At the very least, you'll learn how to write really good quality applications, or you'll go through the motions of doing those horrible video interviews, psychometric tests, and so on. And if you're really lucky, you might even get to an interview stage. So use it as in terms of preparation for summers, which is more important in the sort of second year. So your first year summer, start gearing up for those applications. But rather than fixating on what you don't get or can't do, just think of the time you could spend. So rather than spend it, you've submitted, let's say, 50 Spring Week applications, they've been successful. What are you going to do with the time you now have that you aren't committing to applications? What if some of your peers in the third year management, for instance, who didn't get Spring Weeks, what did they do, and how did they use that time? Because it's not, as you say, you're right, it's not the only thing that employers look for. In fact, it's, more people than not don't have Spring Weeks. But this is a sort of cultural issue, I guess, at LSE, where they hear this chatter in halls. Sort of the second question you get asked: "What's your name? How many Spring Weeks have you applied for?" So we do have to we have to recognise there's a limit to what we can do, but those are the sort of messages that I'd suggest that work in my experience.
Can I just quickly add on to that, Lewis? I think what can also be helpful is if they feel very worried and stressed about it, to come to a careers appointment, because often we have a bit of space there to myth bust a little bit. And I recognize David Trodden on the call. We once did an event for accounting where we invited alumni speakers back in who didn't secure internships and had wonderful careers. So I think careers appointments can also be a good space to sit down and look at a couple of alumni examples that really drive home the message that there's a broad variety of pathways out there. And I think that's also a valuable message to share with students, that there are very, very successful alumni, whatever that means, out there who haven't done Spring Weeks or even summer internships.
I mean, I have to say that our students are extremely fortunate in the support that they get from careers, and the head, Hiba. She puts on some fantastic workshops. One of them is early on in the first term, and it's like Spring Week, no problem. And it talks about, the different ways in which they can develop their work experience and the different points that they can enter at that point. But it's just trying to break the cycle of those that are just completely focused, and there's just no amount of talking that's going to get them to change their mind. But I suppose I just have to accept that.
Thank you. We're running 2 minutes over. Are you okay with finishing at 35 past? Yeah.
Sure.
Aguile had a question about differences between departments, if you see any, in terms of how they approach students, how they approach.
Yes, which is part of the joy of why we love working in careers across all departments of LSE. How are you going to tackle it? So you could tackle it in terms of the level of experience people have when they come to LSE. Some of our academic departments are postgraduate only, or the postgraduate courses they offer get people who have significant work experience in. So that's sort of a key difference between departments. By the way, what perhaps we didn't mention is that we do have a program called Professionals at LSE, which is for students and graduates and alumni who have over 5 years experience, because obviously they have slightly different needs to students who are at the beginning of their journey. Broadly speaking, we did an analysis of undergraduate, what we call undergraduate departments, and you could try to categorize students into 3 ways. Some students are very industry focused in that they care about prestige, money, powerful roles, and they're probably the ones that you see in management in terms of, I need to get these roles early. Then you have students who are more skills focused, so they want to sort of develop skills and use the skills from the degree programs and the other extracurriculars and use that in work. And then you have the values driven students who are not concerned about the prestige and money and more concerned about social impact, social justice, and so on. But in terms of what students want, there's varying sort of careers needs, and we try and reflect that both in our sort of what we offer in terms of our departmental programs, but then also, as Maria's also said, we've got like a huge range of different programs across I think 14 different sectors, 4 country programs, 5 sort of EDI programs, program for PhD students, program professionals at LSE, and I've probably forgotten what we do there as well. It's hard to remember all. So yeah, there is lots of differences, but the careers consultants, part of their sort of role is to get to know the academic departments they're working with really, really well. So yeah, so if you've got any more questions, please go to them or drop Maria and I a line, of course.
Thank you. Yeah, so...
And sorry, just very quickly, there's been a question that's coming about how long do you support alumni for? So at the moment, for the first 2 years after someone graduates, they get identical career access. So they sort of, all the appointments, the events, all our tools and so on, that just basically we treat them the same. From 2 to 5 years out, basically pretty much everything goes away except access to appointments, and that turns into sort of 2 one-hour coaching appointments per year should they need that. So what often happens is students leave, and then 4 years later they're like, right, Lewis, I finished my grad scheme, I've been promoted, but I want to change. I've completely forgotten how I go about doing this. Can you help? Or I want to do a massive career change. Can you help? So yeah, different style of appointments. It's something which we are looking at. Other universities are considering getting rid of a cap. However, the difficulty is with extremely career-oriented students and graduates, it's a question of how on earth would we resource that. But it's something which is, is being thought about in the future.
Thank you very much. And I think with that, we'll wrap up the session. Thank you, Lewis and Maria, for presenting. The session will be made available later next week if you want to share it. Yeah, thank you to those who attend for your questions, and hopefully see you next week.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.